Welcome to day 106 of 200 days of code. And today we have a very special guest. It's Leon Andersen in the house. Leon, how are you doing?
Hello, world. console that logging, console logging that shit out of my mind. Doing great. A little bit of a sore voice because I did some screaming therapy. Anyways, yeah, today, about 23 hours ago, I actually did look at some code. I watched through a bunch of styling tutorials, CSS and Tailwind and responsive design, responsive styling tutorials. And there weren't like really, I wasn't really satisfied with what I found. There was not like, that feeling when you find a resource where you're like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I had this quite some time sometimes during my journey so far here with the code calls as well with the coding journey. But Tailwind, or no, let's say responsive styling, golden layout, didn't find much, unfortunately. But the tutorial by Tailwind themselves, by Tailwind Lab, was close enough, and I think if I will like look into it tomorrow, just starting to build and following the rough similar process as they did, because they had a very different website that they were and I think I can do it. I can learn it by doing. But yeah, I was just a bit confused, because usually, like, I would think that responsive design is like a very well understood, or let's say well covered topic, maybe. But it, like, maybe it's so fundamental that people don't bother covering it. Like, sometimes like asking people who are writing songs, how do you write the song? Yeah, I don't know, I just come up with it. Okay, well, maybe it's something like that. But I don't know. I'm pretty confident that I'll work it out, but it will be quite different than the examples that I found. And I didn't like find this like foundational, like, I like to go to the basic principles stuff. Not much satisfying there, but I'm excited to just go ahead and do it on my own. And unfortunately, other than that, I did not have much of a look at code today. But finally, the last day of my tomorrow I have to go back to my old job once again to bring back my working utensils. But then I'm free. Except for a small side hustle that I'm doing now. But then I'm getting closer and closer to freedom day by day, and that's awesome. And I'm curious what Aleph might have today to get me in contact with some more code. And I have to say, just looking at my Just opening up VS Code was already a pleasure. No wonder with my color theme. But was already a pleasure looking at that code, but not that as much as I would love to.
Got it. So the first question would be, is this the video that you meant?
This is correct.
Got it. Well, then we just have a little announcement today, I guess, a little teaser for people who are here in the stream. Let me show it. Here it is. Wait. Oh yeah, it was hiding. Here it is. Bam. So the thing that we are open sourcing, or that's already open source, we inherited from a different developer who had no more time to maintain this stack. Tomorrow, a new version of the French house stack is going to drop. So the French house stack is a remix stack. People who know remix might know that there are stacks which are basically custom configurations of code bases that come with a lot of stuff that you reconfigured for you. And some of the things that the French house stack will bring to the table is like full TypeScript, login with Magic. And for those that don't know Magic, Magic is one of the, if not the safest authentication provider out there. And it is deeply future-proof because it allows you to connect with all kinds of blockchains, especially the main two, Ethereum and Bitcoin. So you can build apps that are compatible for the future. Then we have Vitest, which is just the fastest unit testing framework out there. We have Playwright for end-to-end tests, Tailwind with, as you maybe can see if you know Chat CNUI. I think it's the weirdest name ever. But if you know Chat CNUI, all the components in here are in the French house stack too. You can deploy the app to fly with a simple command. We have SQLite with Prisma out of the box. So you can easily set up this stack anywhere and just run it with ease. You have a very nice database there. MFW is configured for both the client and the server, which means you can send requests from the client and intercept them in your tests, in your dev environment. You know, this allows you to run the stack even when you're on your private jet and you might not have internet, though these days most planes have internet. And we have the testing library. We have Prettier, we have EFLint, and that is just the things that we decided to put on the landing page because they look good. They have nice logos. There's much more into it. Check it out, learn from the code patterns, use it for your next projects. Even if you're not connecting to Web3 or Web5 yet, just use Magic because it's a lot safer than implementing your own authentication or any other authentication provider out there. Oh, and one more thing. It's completely written with test-driven development. That means you're going to start out your next project with complete code coverage of almost every single function that's worth testing, and with a complete end-to-end test suite pre-configured for you so that it's very easy for you to keep up the habit of testing your code in general and ideally doing TDD. And because Mr. Andersen needs to be exposed to code today, let's have a sneak peek at the code too, which lives here. So let's make it a little bit bigger. So one of the documents that you should check out is the README. It explains you everything, how you can set up the how you update your node environment, you know, all the stuff that you need to run. It's a very simple setup that you can probably get working in like 10 minutes after you read through this document, it also explains a lot more of all the scripts this thing is packed for you. Like you can just easily run migrations with easy to remember scripts. We've got routing, which is just the default routing from Remix, which is great. We've got authentication. We've got shelled CLUI, as we mentioned. IATnet, so it comes with translations. We didn't even put it on the landing page. GitHub Actions, so you have CI, CD out of the box. A bunch of warnings around Playwright, how to make it work properly. Yeah, so much more. Like I can keep scrolling, but you should check it out for yourself. So what is something that we can look at that is nice and neat and easy to learn? Just a nice little nugget. Let's see here. Do we have, oh yeah. So I think we've talked about it in the sessions when we covered use effect. But one of the things that we're using in this code base is a hook called use effect once. Because, as is linked here in the code, React 18 actually mounts and then unmounts and then mounts your components, your React components, causing use effects to run more than you maybe intend to, even if you pass an anti-array as the dependency. And this effect simply opts out of this render once it has run once. And before I explain how it works, which I think is pretty straightforward, Leon, why don't you try and give it a shot and see what you think, how this effect is ensuring that it only runs once?
Oh wow, that's I'm curious if I'm going to grasp that. So we're returning a cleanup function. ESLint disable next line. I have no idea what ESLint does. Is that is the ESLint part in line 24 part of the mechanics, or can I ignore that?
Yeah, you can ignore it. ESLint is only about code styling. It's not about functionality. So you can ignore everything line 13 and above and line 24.
Okay. Line 13 and above. Okay. Const is first mount use ref. So basically we are combining use ref and use effect in one. I don't know if that's a higher order component, maybe. I don't know. I haven't had these ones yet, but is first mount current false, then return the effect if it's true. Well, as far as I'm understanding it, as soon as, like, if it's not the first mount, which is available as a boolean from useref, then we return the cleanup function. And I guess if we put in the right cleanup function, because above it says it can return a cleanup function, then, well, what did the cleanup function do again? I guess it just did it just stop the execution, or wait, what did the cleanup function? I think cleanup function was doing whatever you wanted to, but it's just a function after. No, wait. What did the cleanup function do? I mean, wasn't it just about stopping a process? I don't know. Maybe some of the stuff I said made sense.
It definitely did. So the cleanup function runs when the component unmounts or when the state in the dependency area, or better said, when some of the dependencies in the dependency area change. This function, useEffect1, does not accept a dependency array, and it sets the dependency array of useEffect in the implementation to an empty array. So that means the only case where the cleanup function is running is if the useEffect1's hook is unmounted because the component using it is unmounted. And you got the basic gist, I think. Where you drifted off a little bit is just in what exactly is happening, because you don't have that much experience with the regular useEffect. But it was completely right that the effect only runs one time, because on the first mount, is first mount.current is true, because that is our default value. But then it gets set to false, meaning in subsequent mounts, its first mount.current is false. So this part of the code never runs again. And after it was set to false, still in the first mount now, we now execute the effect that we are giving, which means the real effect is running and the cleanup will run once this hook gets unmounted.
So the effect and only gets executed in the first mount, right?
Exactly.
And is that already the cleanup function, or?
It will contain the cleanup function. So the usage of useEffect1 will look something like this, where you pass in a function, right? And this function can return a cleanup function that does something, but it can also do something in its like regular run, so to speak.
So for situation where you want, I don't know, where you want, well, I honestly don't really remember what the special thing about the cleanup function is, except for that it runs like as the last thing that gets executed. What could be like? Could anything be set as a cleanup function, or did it have any special feature or use case?
So in general, you can run anything in there, but people run only certain things that make sense in there. But I think just knowing that this is the part that is usually used / most used, and this is occasionally used if necessary, is good enough. If you just remember that about useEffect, then you're good. And once you will see it in context, it will help you to just understand it a lot faster what's going on.
Yeah, I guess I need more context because I mean I do understand the conditional mechanism, of setting first mount to false and to returning the like one effect, but I don't really get the relation of use effect and use and the cleanup function. I don't know, like why, like can't I just use multiple functions inside of one function?
Well, without going too deep, like one use case could be you create a new WebSocket, right? But you also need to close the WebSocket after using it. If you now say WebSocket.close immediately here, it just dies, right? You cannot use it. But if you put it here, then it gets closed after the WebSocket has been used. Can I put open here? Oh, I don't even remember the WebSocket anymore, but something like that, right? So cleanup is only useful if you need to call something when the use effect gets unmounted or when the dependency in the use effect array changes and you want to rerun this again.
I got it. So if you want something to execute on unmounting, did I get that right?
Yes, that is one of the cases where the cleanup function of use effect runs.
Okay, yeah, there were a lot of different elements and points that you mentioned at once, and I do have these blanking out moments where like there's like too much new vocabulary at once where where stuff doesn't make sense. But I remember that you said something about mounting and unmounting, and I guess now it makes more sense. So it's basically I don't know if it's fair to compare it to an event listener because the events are happening usually by a user, but it's kind of listening for a let's say back-end mechanic event. Yeah, I'm not calling about user events, basically about like having a WebSocket unmount or unmounting something and being executed then is a bit like listening for something to happen and only then executing. I don't know. it's not. I mean, why? I mean, yeah, it's using an if statement. So yeah, it's basically listening for a condition until the condition is true, and then I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, and you just mentioned another very common use case for use effect, which could be event listeners. So if you want to attach an event listener to an element, to the document, to whatever, then you need to hook it up like this. For example, on click, you want to do something with the document, but then when this thing unmounts, you also want to remove that event listener again. Otherwise, this handler would be attached forever. So you just mentioned a great use case for both the main body of the use effect function as well as the optional cleanup function that we can return.
Does it make sense to use effect once without using the cleanup function?
Yes, you can both use use effect as well as use effect once, sometimes without needing the cleanup function.
And if you don't use the cleanup function, what is the difference between use effect and use effect once then?
The difference between use effect and use effect once is if this would be use effect and we had for example, an anti-dependency array here, this would still run at least twice because of the behavior of React 18 of trying to detect maliciously used use effects by mounting and unmounting them. And then if you have a use effect, let's copy this real quick and put it here. And let's say you have some state, right? And you just want to log out the state whenever it changes for some reason. Maybe you want to debug something, This would be a use case where you cannot use effect once because use effect once does not take in a dependency array, right? So it only always runs once. So there's a difference in usage, but also here's a clear use case that you can see where you would not use the cleanup function.
What mounts or unmounts use effect once or use effect?
So there are two conditions. First one is when the React component using the effect is mounted or unmounted. And second, if any of the values in the dependency array change.
And if we don't have any values in the dependency array, then only the first one is true?
Pretty much, except again for the behavior of React forcefully mounting and unmounting use effect on the first mount to detect wrongly used use effects.
And how does that detection work? Is that something that helps understand this whole thing, or is that unnecessary?
It helps by breaking your app.
No, I mean understanding it. Like if you would explain to me, like how does the okay, wait, it helps by breaking your app. Breaking the app if I have a use effect wrongly wrongly, I don't know, implemented? I don't know.
Well, thinking of a use case, I have never misused the use effect, so it's hard for me to think of a use case. But picture this. Let's say you have a component that takes in a prop, right? And for some reason, you want to change that prop. When the component renders for the first time, maybe you want to add, I don't know, a suffix to a string. So let's say you have, and this is a very contrived example, no, but yeah, I need to code with something to show you the point. So let's say you have a prop like title, right? And title is coming in through the props above here. So I'm just going to reference it, even though it's not defined. Just think about title coming in as a prop. And you want to add something to the title, like maybe hello world or something like this hello world, right? If now React executes this twice, then you expect it to say title plus hello world, but in reality, it says title, hello world, right? So this is an example that will not ever be happening in the real world, but it can show you how running an effect twice when you only counted on running once can break your app.
So so what is React trying to achieve with doing that? Because like isn't it like why would it want to incentive the users or the programmers to not add something to the prop.
That was not the point, right? And this thing adding to the prop is the completely fabricated use case that will never happen and is completely bogus. The main takeaway from this is use effect runs twice to make every code erroneous that is misusing use effect. In the real world, that would be a completely different example. It could be as easy as, let's take a more actual example, but it's not as app breaking. Let's say you fetch something from somewhere, right? And this is now running twice. Now the load on your server is doubled. Well, this is a more realistic use case, even though it is not as app breaking, but I couldn't come up with a good app breaking use case.
Okay, so what would be wrong about using use effect to fetch something? Is it because it's asynchronous or?
No, because this is not what use effect is meant to do. Use effect is meant to synchronize things with your state or your components, like an event listener, for example. This is completely clean code right here. This is misusing use effect.
Okay, and but you still could do that with use effect once instead?
Yeah, you could.
So basically, you build use effect to enable people to misuse use effect. You build use effect once to enable people to misuse use effect.
Exactly. I built use effect once because I needed to misuse use effect once.
Did you need to misuse it only once or multiple times?
In this app, it is misused. The use effect once is used twice, so you could argue it's misused twice.
Okay. Well, I honestly have to recap the differences between use effect, use state, and use ref. I mean, I know use state for sure, but I didn't use effect or use ref like anywhere yet. So I definitely have to repeat and really compare them next to each other again sometime to really yeah, to really understand it. But I guess I will just practice as often as I actually need it, learning by doing.
Yeah, great. I mean, the reason why you never had to misuse use effect is because you're using Next.js, right? And when you want to fetch something on Node there, then you would probably use either get static props or get server-side props. So that is one of the benefits of Next.js. You don't have to misuse use effect. But what I would recommend to you doing, and I think we talked about this, is whenever you feel like it, just learn about these APIs from React again using the new docs. So go to the new React docs and then just read about use effect, use ref, because there are nice exercises teaching you these concepts even more deeply.
Is that the same that you sent me about that also had some exercises about lifting state and yeah, there was something about controlling multiple like child elements being able to affect each other, like this. I don't know, harmonica. I don't know the name of the thing where you basically have things opening and closing on the website if you click on it, and seeing more text. And the example in the docs, in some of the React docs that you sent me, was when you clicked on one thing, this one opened, but then the other one closed. Was it that docs thing?
I think so, but you can just Google or DuckDuckGo React docs, and if you go to the wrong ones, there will be a big red banner. Hey, these are the old ones. Click here for the new ones.
Yes, I'll look into that stuff when I have the time, but I guess I will probably look into them when I have the need, because until I have the need, I don't have any time, I guess, because I only have time for what stuff that I need. But I'm looking forward to learning about that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you ever get frustrated or a little bored or so, because I know that right now you're super excited to keep styling your blog, which is great. The great thing about your stage and your journey is that there's so much stuff that you can do, which is still very valuable to you. So even if you, for some reason, just feel interested in following this curiosity and learning more about user effect and user these are definitely topics that will come up over and over again. So yeah, just learn about them when you feel like it. But obviously, these stands saying, "Hey, I only want to look into them when I'm confronted with them." Again, is also very rational and valuable. So you have no way to lose and multiple ways to win here.
That's awesome. Yeah, looking forward.
Cool. This is it then. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching the recording, join us live. It's always fun. And this has been day 106 of 200 days of code with
Leon Andersen, who also had day 6 of 100 days of gym today, and with my mentor.
Mill was very, very impressed that you can always keep track on which day of gym you are. Like, you have just so nice memory. I would easily confuse the days already. Thank you everyone for watching. See you tomorrow.
Always be misusing use effect once.
I do not condone this behavior.